Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. The Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. I'm your host, AP. They sometimes call me AP for Liberty. You can find me there on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much anywhere at AP for Liberty. And that's the name of my shop, AP4LibertyShop.com, where we sell the famous Javier Milei Afuera shoes. Selling them all over the world. Like I was saying earlier today, I kind of just thought that I was going to open up a shop, maybe sell some of my little 3D printed Thomas Jefferson Buddhas, that I like to make in my little shop. And then one thing led to another. I'm selling sneakers all over the world. Well, thanks to Javier Milei. But it's more than just about capitalism, or is it? Maybe it's all about capitalism. Javier Milei's speech to Congress opening up their first session as president was a barn burner of a speech, even better than his speech that he gave, in my opinion, to the World Economic Forum and to the Conservative Political Action Conference that he gave last week. Let's get an expert in here to talk about South American politics. His name is Aaron Sepulveda. He's an economist, and he's joining us live from Texas right now. Good morning, Aaron. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you guys? Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, glad to have you here, Aaron. Our favorite subject, Javier Milei. My friends who live in the small town here of Jefferson City who like to tune into the show this morning are like, I've never known as much about Argentine politics as I have since Javier Milei started following Austin Petersen on Twitter. And it's true. I talk about him a lot. But that's
you're literally training, I'm kidding, in some of the most sophisticated political theory and practice your audience. If you learn politics of Argentina, you learn theory and practice in the most hardcore way. So everyone should follow Argentine politics just to learn how politics actually work. If we can do that, it will transform the way we see the world.
Correct, because what we're seeing here is probably the greatest experiment in free market ideas that has occurred in our lifetime or will ever occur. I've compared this in the past to the fall of the Berlin Wall, with the difference that when the Berlin Wall fell, they didn't go from a communist nation to a libertarian nation. They went to an autocracy. Now we're seeing the 8th largest country in the world experimenting with the kind of laissez-faire free market policies that most authoritarians or statists or moderates around the world say has never been tried. Real libertarianism has never been tried, but they're trying it down there, aren't they?
Well, yeah, the point is they're trying to find a way, and that's why we have to all be very patient with the process, is because you need to understand that I was trying to explain to American audiences what Argentina is like right now. So most of you guys follow MMT theory, which pretty much is like, yeah, the government can create money, therefore it can pretty much achieve anything it wants through subsidies.
Monetary theory is what MMT is.
MMT. It says, the government can create money, which we all know. Therefore, it can pretty much achieve anything through subsidies, like tax what you don't like and subsidize what you do like. Well, what is the problem is that it ends up subsidizing everything. Like I was going through some of the extreme cases. Oh, imagine this. Imagine that the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, that's how it's called, the convention, I think.
Yeah, the DNC.
The DNC. Imagine that they apply for 50 years all of the policies that MMT proposes, which pretty much try to subsidize everything that is popular and tax everything that is not popular. What do you end up having here? Everything ends up being subsidized. There's not enough resources to justify all of the money creation. Extreme cases that there were something like, okay, it's popular to impose tariffs on foreign products that they're ridiculously high. That make things more expensive. They create more money to try to pay for the differences. When prices start going up, they go up even more. Then this is how crazy it goes. Then they start taxing exports. This is what when you start, just imagine not just taxing imports, but taxing exports. So that some of the resources that were leaving Argentina would stay in Argentina, and that would kind of help inflation a little bit. But then what was is that there were less dollars coming into the nation. By having less dollars coming into the nation, they're going to have to acquire them through creating more money, trying to buy dollars, and that depreciates the peso. And then it's a never-ending cycle of inflation, more regulation to fix the problems of the other regulation, and he never ends. Mises discussed this in some of his books. You start with one regulation, then you have to have a second one trying to fix the negative consequences of it. That one creates even more negative consequences. Then the third one, by the time you figure it out, half of the economy is completely frozen by regulations. And that's why it's going to take long, because the first thing they have to do is to try to get rid of all of the paperwork that people have to go through in almost every single step of their lives. So it's going to take time, but yes, we're trying to privatize everything. The goal is to get some type of minarchist state in, say, 20 years. But for right now, we're moving from California towards Texas. That's kind of like the first step. Just imagine how a world will be if California will create its own currency, the government of California will create its own currency, and Milei is trying to move it to something a little more similar to what the economy in Texas looks like. That's the first step.
We're trying to Texas to California. That's a really great metaphor.
Yeah, from California to Texas, we're trying to move that step.
Got it.
When we get to there, then we move forward.
Okay, great. Well, so let's back to current events here in regards to Javier Milei's speech to Congress. He is brave. He tells members of his own Congress to their face what he thinks of them. And quite frankly, he doesn't have that high of an opinion. Now, he needs these people to get his agenda across, but he doesn't mince words in his speech. What were some of the key highlights or takeaways that you thought were interesting from Javier Milei's speech to Congress?
The very interesting one is that he proposed 10 points as if they were kind of like principles for the future of Argentina. The political system is being rebooted right now. That's the goal. It's to start from scratch. The political system, the culture, the family, everything else in Argentina is great. This is what I want people to understand. Everything in Argentina is great except the political the political system. That this is why it's so startling when you get there and you see so much talent and they can be productive and what's going on. The rules stop you. So the main thing is to meet in May and sign a contract in a northern city of Argentina, which includes respect for private property. Budget deficits should be prohibited completely because they're just endemic in Argentina since ever. And the problem is not just the federal deficit, but the provinces, the states, also have huge deficits, and they don't want to reduce spending. And there's some type of co-participation between the provinces and the federal government, and a lot of them don't want to go for it. So the main thing is trying to get as many people as possible in the political system to accept the new reality. There are not enough resources to subsidize every kind of personal taste that a political activist want, because that's the way politics works used to work in politics. We're trying to move from there. Is we even random groups that don't agree with each other on anything, they get together, vote together, and then after they win, they literally just spread the budget if it's necessary to create money, if it's necessary to borrow money, whatever it is, and everyone just tries to get subsidies on whatever their preferences are, and says that's gonna. And we have to make that commitment in May. We're gonna make a convention so that the people that are committed to improve the living standards of Argentines will actually meet in May and sign the contract for a better future of Argentina.
It's exciting. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, we're speaking to Aaron Sepulveda, an economist in the state of Texas and an expert on South American politics. We're talking about Javier Milei's speech to Congress in the opening of their National Assembly last Friday and the key takeaways from Javier Milei's speech. One of the reasons why I have been so excited and turned on by what Javier Milei is doing in Argentina is because it reflects very near the economic ideas that I adhere to, the ideas of limited government and laissez-faire. And we are big fans of what Javier Milei is promising to do, but of course, he does face sincere obstacles. Some of the things that he's already accomplished, libertarians in the United States can't even hold a candle to. In his first few days of office, he shut down almost a dozen government agencies. He's also managed to deregulate the housing market down there, thereby increasing the supply. We could certainly use these kinds of reforms here in the United States. Very briefly, I do want to say thank you to Robbie Thurman. He just donated $20 to the tip jar. Thank you, Robbie. And a very brief reminder to let you know that all we have to do is raise $15 more by the end of the show. And you can also purchase merchandise from apforlibertyshop.com. And if we raise at least $50 by the end of the show, then you will unlock today's mini documentary about a famous Lady of Liberty. If you'd like to find out who that is, you can either make a donation, buy some Afuera sneakers, Javier Milei sneakers, or just donate $15 and Rumble Rants by the end of the show to unlock today's mini documentary about a famous Lady of Liberty from history. I'm speaking to Aaron Sepulveda. Aaron, there are a lot of American critics of Javier Milei, and the American critics of Javier Milei are not the type of people you would expect unless you know a lot about the liberty movement in the United States. People who are devoted to well, at least ostensibly, the same ideals as Javier Milei are criticizing his desire to dollarize Argentina. They say that the Federal Reserve, the central bank, the dollar is the problem here in the United States. And to an extent, I agree with them. So their argument is that what Javier Milei is doing is immoral because he is trying to dollarize Argentina when what he should be doing is to abolish the central bank and replace it with nothing. Therefore, they see him as an enemy and not a friend of liberty. How do you respond to those criticisms?
Well, that life is a lot more complicated than what they think. Okay. Yeah, I usually say to my I mean, and most of you guys should know, I'm actually an ANCAP theoretically, but in order to get there, we need to privatize things. I mean, little by little, step by step, and things don't get privatized by themselves. We literally have to be in power and privatize things. Is literally what Javier is doing right now. So we have to be in power no matter what. Now, what the difficulty for a lot of Americans is to try to get out of there, and I think what the work you're doing, Austin, is tremendous, so that people start looking at the world a little more from other eyes. Because one of the great things in the United States is that whether we like it or not, we're very much sheltered and protected from a lot of the difficulties. We never had 100% inflation, guys. Just think about the deep differences between what Javier Milei is facing in Argentina and what we face in the United States. I'm not saying that I support the Federal Reserve, but the point right now is, and has been explained by him, by the way, it shouldn't be that hard to see, is people in Argentina already chose the dollar, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. The most liquid, the most tradable good that you can easily trade, the one that can be considered money right now, money doesn't care about whether it's moral or immoral or who's issuing it. What's money is the one that is most accepted. The most accepted in the world happens to be the dollar, and Argentines have been using the dollar since forever, to the point that anti-libertarian administrations of the past had to make it illegal to actually make payment with dollars, and that already stopped. Just from there, every single free market guy, doesn't matter if you're a minarchist or an ANCAP, you should be happy for the policy, because the policy itself already today, there is monetary freedom in Argentina today. Dollarization, and I remember I explained it to you guys last time, but it has to be said many, many times. Dollarization is a technical word. It's not just a common word that's, oh, we're going to use dollars. Dollarization just means a country, in economics, a country is using a currency that is not locally produced. That's all it means. For example, I think it's Albania. It's not part of the Euro system. They're not officially part of the Euro system. They don't have a seat on the European Central Bank, but they have adopted the euro as their own currency. As much as a lot of the tourist areas in Turkey, they accept euros as on a daily basis to make payments, to receive payments, so on and so forth. We usually say that, oh, Albania is dollarized. And then people say, oh, they use the dollar. I say, no, they use the euro. Just dollarized means they're using an external currency outside that they don't have control over. Just the fact that banks and politicians in Argentina do not control the dollar, that in itself, you're already putting us in the free market, in a free market situation. Things have to change in the United States. If things change in the United States, Argentines are going to choose a different currency, and it will be more like. But right now, people have chosen the dollar. As I told a lot of people, is in order to close the central bank right now in Argentina. This probably wasn't true in other places because of the disaster that they left behind. Just to keep it simple, guys, a lot of the debt of the federal government of Argentina is gigantic, and in order to hide it, they impose a debt on the central bank we're talking about like three or four times the size of the monetary base. So a lot of the debts that the treasury, the government of Argentina needed, they found a way to impose those debts on the central bank. So the debts central bank are huge. In order to close it, you have to end those interest. You think about this, the debt of Argentina that is they call it quasi-fiscal, just to say that it has to do with the government. The government is really the one push the central bank into getting into that kind of debt. They were paying 133% a year interest rates. Just imagine the accumulation of debt and the amount of currency that has to be created in order to pay back that debt is just beyond belief. Javier Milei needs to get dollars to pay back. If you guys want to see it this way, they have to create pesos to pay that debt, and immediately, so that prices don't shoot up, use dollars to retire those pesos. Why? Because the dollars are the ones that are in most demand in Argentina. It's not a choice of Milei. Is what's the currency, the asset that is in most demand in Argentina? The dollar. Okay, I have to go get dollars so that I can go and retire as many pesos out of circulation. Some of them are going to stay, just so you guys know, that for like small change, it's very difficult. If you dollarize, it's very difficult. You can get like $20 bills, $50 bills, even $5 bills, but like small change is very difficult. So some of the pesos are going to stay in circulation just for small change. But the let's call it the non-physical debts that the central bank, those ones have to be paid with dollars. And therefore, and the reason why it have to be paid with dollars is because it's the currency that is in demand in Argentina. If Argentines right now that are going to get dollars in exchange for the pesos and the debts that they have against the government, get the dollars and buy Bitcoin and start using Bitcoin, then Bitcoin is going to be the money in Argentina. If they get the dollars and they start using, let's say, the Brazilian currency in Venezuela, that happened. For example, northern Venezuela, they were using dollars mostly. Certain areas of Venezuela, believe it or not, they were using gold. If you want to talk about that later on, sometime in the future, a lot of people would find it fascinating. People in the border with Brazil were using Brazilian currency. People in the border with Colombia, even today, they're using Colombian currency. Whatever people choose, that's perfectly fine. The point is, how do we close the central bank? That's the point of using dollars. How do we close it? Actually, and Milei said it, the dollar is the asset that is going to kill the Argentinian central bank. But whatever people choose, it's up to them. Right now, you can make payments with Bitcoin. You can make payments with Ethereum. You can make payments with Euro. You can do whatever you want. There's complete freedom right now. And he's just using the dollar as a tool to close the central bank. After the central bank is closed, people can completely use and they're doing it right now. Whatever they do with those dollars, if they want to use it as money for payments, be my guest. If they don't want to use it as money, they're going to sell them off for something else, then that's how it is. The problem is that these type of topics are incredibly technical, and I recommend ANCAPs to please study the details of the monetary system on how it works, so that for a lot of people that know how the current, we don't like the current monetary system. We don't like it, but we need to learn how it works. And one of those ones is, which one is the currency that is in most demand? The dollars. Okay, so then in order to close the central bank, Javier Milei needs to get dollars to buy away out of circulation as many pesos as necessary and as many debt as possible, so that they can formally close it. And another one, for example, a lot of the debt that the central bank created to cover the extreme government expenses, they are the assets of the banking sector. Those are the assets that are backing the deposits of regular Argentines. Then if what is it, the currency that they're using right now? They even use it as unit of account just to make some contracts, is the dollar. Okay, they need to give dollars to the banks so that the banks can offer dollars to Argentines that have bank accounts. Why? Because that's what they want to use. So what is it they have to make available? Something that people want to use or something that people don't want to use. They have to make dollars available because that's what people want to use. If they switch later, the government of Javier Milei has no problems at all. If they switch to gold, they switch to silver, whatever you guys can imagine. Actually, this is a great opportunity for both, for everyone on the Bitcoin community and everyone in the gold community and everyone in the silver community, offer services in Argentina precisely of how to use gold, how to use silver, how to use cryptocurrencies. I was telling some people in Argentina, We know that it has some of the most highly used of cryptocurrencies in the world because people were using the stable coins just in order to grab the stable coins because they're tied. There's some that are tied to the dollar. They learn how to use cryptocurrency. So the step to move to start using more Bitcoin is just one step away. Almost everywhere in the world, you first have to teach them how to use crypto, like just the environment. Then you have to tell them about Bitcoin. Right now, the Argentines already know how to use cryptocurrencies without a problem because they're using
They've had
stablecoins.
to. They've had to use cryptocurrencies, Aaron, because I mean, when you're in that situation and you're desperate, you're looking for anything that'll be a regular store of value. And that is something that I think a lot of American anarcho-capitalists who are critical of him and his monetary views just don't understand. I want to reset for the 911 people who are tuning into the Wake Up America show live. Give Aaron a chance to have a drink of water. I'm
And
drinking.
yerba mate.
Yeah, yerba mate, yes, a great product which I'm hoping to export from Argentina to the United States on my visit to Argentina later this year. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Petersen. I'm glad to have you here. Please do me a favor and click that like button now. And for the hundreds of you who are watching this, I imagine for the very first time, please do subscribe to the channel. We'd be glad to have you come back here and join us for our regular schedule every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. I was speaking to economist Aaron Sepulveda about Javier Milei's challenges in Argentina, not only to dollarize, but also to get his deregulatory agenda across the finish line. He gave a barn burner of a speech to his opening of his National Congress last week, and we're discussing some of the highlights, as well as discussing some of the criticisms of Javier Milei from his detractors here in the United States, who not only are criticizing him on the economic policy front, which they ostensibly agree with him on, but the foreign policy front, which they absolutely do not agree with him on. American anarcho-capitalists and libertarians have a decidedly non-interventionist to decidedly isolationist standpoint when it comes to foreign policy in the world. We criticize neoconservatives who want to play games in foreign affairs, make the world safe for democracy, a la Woodrow Wilson, and who want us to have endless war and endless spending on the military. Now, Aaron, I consider myself something of a non-interventionist, not an isolationist, but someone who believes in a strong national defense. When looking at the foreign policy of Javier Milei, he's received a lot of criticism from those in the United States who don't like his pro-Israel stance, who don't like his pro-Ukraine stance. It was reported last week that he donated 2 Russian helicopters to the government of Ukraine in a stance of solidarity. And this has triggered a lot of American ANCAPs and libertarians who think that the foreign policy of Argentina should be neutral, that neutrality in foreign affairs is a superior stance and much more closely aligned with libertarianism. Some are calling him a globalist, some are calling him a Zionist. What would you say in regards to the foreign policy of Argentina's Javier Milei?
First, let me state my position. My position personally is non-intervention. That's it. The U.S. should never been concerned using our tax dollar. I mean, private dollars. You and I send. That's not strange that privately will send ways to help. Let's say, for example, I'm a Christian, so I don't mind sending resources to Christians that are in difficulty times and all that kind of stuff. Now, the Milei issue is, guys, let's be realistic. Whatever Milei does makes zero difference in international military issues. It's a very small country. Yeah, right now he's kind of famous and has some type of impact internationally, which, by the way, that's great that a libertarian has that kind of access. But whatever he chooses to do on the military side of international politics has no impact internationally, guys. That's just the reality. It's a very small country. If he had a more a less interventionist view or more neutral view, it will make no difference also whatsoever.
Okay, that's true, but that's a question of you. That's a utilitarian argument, Aaron, and it's not a moral argument. I'd like to hear you respond because I'm the biggest Javier Milei fan in the United States. Maybe you're a little bit bigger than me even, but I'm definitely one of the top ones, right? I run his shop here, but I think all politicians deserve to have difficult questions posed to them. Now, the question is, was this donation of Russian military helicopters to the government of Ukraine, is that in his own national best interest? Is it in the interests of liberty?
Well, that's a good question. In the national interest, I'm guessing that it is because he's doing good. He's having good relationship with dollar holders. That's it, straight out, for national reasons. The priority of Milei is whatever happens in Argentina, and the first priority is to dollarize. So he has to be in good terms with dollar creators and dollar holders in general. And was it good for liberty? My guess is that it has no impact because it's just too much of a small country. This is the issue. American ANCAPs and American libertarians in general, we do have to try to influence U.S. policy that is much less interventionist than what we have right now. Do not think for a second that I want a more expansionary policy, but by no means whatsoever. But the Argentine influence is truly minuscule. It makes no difference. Let's say, would it have been better that he didn't get involved at all? Maybe I think I would like that personally, but they have a bunch of other priorities. And this is a big issue, guys, when it comes to usually when people talk about utilitarianism, I laugh because it's like, yeah, my principles do imply that the consequence has to be good too. Like, it's just, I mean, it's everything. It's not just the principles, but the consequences. I don't choose one or the other. Both have to go hand in hand. The consequences have to be good and the principles have to be good. If the consequences are bad, then something's wrong with the principles. And if the consequences are good and you think the principles are bad, you have to go back and check. If you're having good consequences, then probably the principles are not as bad as you think. So that discussion between being a utilitarian and the ontologist, it truly is not of tremendous use because there are trade-offs. I tend to make the joke that it looks like libertarians understand trade-offs in economics really well, but in politics, some way, somehow, it's the only area of life that has no trade-offs. Yeah,
True.
politics, oh, that's different. Wait,
Yes.
no, sir, that's not how it
Yes.
works. There's
We do
trade-offs
understand. You're
You see what I'm
absolutely
saying?
correct, Aaron. Yes. No, you're right.
So
Trade-offs
I would
exist
close
in
with that.
economics, but not in foreign policy and not in politics, right? In those you can make pure black or white decisions. There is only good and bad, right and wrong, left and right, and there is no shade of gray, nothing in between. But
And by the way, the ones that were like that in Argentina, as he was getting involved in politics, the ones that were saying, no, you're going to get involved in politics, right now, they have to shut up because whatever his criticisms in Argentina against Milei are, no matter how much they speak on Twitter or classes they give or whatever, right now, Argentines have the monetary freedom right now because Javier Milei became the president and got involved in politics instead of just complaining about stuff. The trade-off, maybe you don't like some of the things, but it's a trade-off, is monetary freedom from Argentines with 50% poverty. Is it worth it to have monetary freedom? Yes. And therefore, there are going to be some trade-offs to make it to the top. In order to privatize things, even if just one thing, there are going to be some trade-offs we don't like, but that's just life.
yeah, it's it kind of reminds me of me joining the Republican Party here in the United States, showing up at my caucus this Friday, voting for Donald Trump, becoming a delegate to the Republican Party convention, and realizing that there are people that are going as delegates to myself that they don't agree with me on things like school choice or foreign policy or drug policy or some of these social issues. But I'm going to have to make deals with these people. I'm going to have to create relationships with these people and try and come to a reasonable compromise so that I can advance liberty in my state and liberty in my country, because life is about trade-offs. They didn't elect me dictator. They elected me alternate delegate. So at the end of the day, the question is what am I going to be capable of doing to advance a liberty agenda when I get to those conventions? What's realistic?
And what are priorities?
And what are my priorities? Exactly. Yeah. No, for sure. But one other thing on the foreign policy question, Aaron, and then I want to give you the floor after that to let you plug anything that you'd like or share anything that you think that our listeners should know before we let you go. The Israel question. Of all of the questions in American politics, that is a loaded question. The support for the nation state of Israel, especially in their war against Hamas, is easily the most divisive question that we face, not just with libertarians, but with the nation at whole. The president of the United States, Joe Biden, faces an insurgency from his left amongst progressives on this issue. Libertarians in the United States, we face essentially the modern libertarian movement from a foreign policy perspective. You couldn't differentiate between the foreign policy views of any of our most popular adherents and Noam Chomsky or Howard Zinn, for example. But Javier Milei has taken a different tack than anarcho-capitalists in the United States. Javier Milei is decidedly and openly pro-Israel. He is pro-Zionist. That is verboten, to use a German word, for the haters of Israel, and that in itself makes him a cast out from the official ranks of libertarians in the United States, who view him with suspicion for that reason. How would you respond to American libertarians who say he's not one of us because of his support of a colonizer country who in power use their racist policies against the poor, helpless terrorists of Hamas and the hostage takers of Hamas? How would you respond to that? Very loaded question.
I'll give you guys context so that you understand my position. I used to study, before economics, I used to study international relations, and I specialize in the Israeli-Palestine conflict because I learned and I noticed that it wasn't going to have a solution. I decided to move away from international relations. I became an economist. I'm a macroeconomist right now because I saw that specific topic was never going to get resolved. In my view, we should not make it an issue simply because that's not going to get resolved. We're just wasting our resources or time. That's a topic that there's literally just no way that that's going to get fixed. For libertarians, we have a bunch of other priorities. I understand the concern.
Babies are being blown up. You don't care about the babies. This is what I
care
hear
a lot about them.
when I no, because
what are we gonna do?
Aaron, what's the matter? Are you not susceptible to the same moral blackmail that people like Dave Smith or Clint Russell or others use against people like us for all the children that are being killed? You're not susceptible to that moral blackmail?
I'm super susceptible. I just look at reality and say that's not our business. I understand their concerns, and that this is just not something we can fix. I'm all. I mean, like, for example, I'm very much in top of, for example, remember that the immigration problem. Okay, some are open borders, some are closed borders. How do we deal with it? I look for a solution. Some of you guys know, and I think that's the way I get in contact with you, Austin, long ago, interacting with you, and it was okay. This is gonna be very difficult, and I'm not gonna wait. I need to find a solution. My solution was, and some people have agreed, let's have some type of and Reagan had this type of idea, by the way, unlimited working permits, so that Americans can hire foreigners whenever they want to, and when they don't want to, they don't want to. And if you don't have a job, you leave. But if you do have a job, they shouldn't kick you out, no matter your nationality. That's a solution, intermediate, maybe, and maybe it's not perfect, maybe difficult. We live in a state society, and what is our priority as American libertarians? It is U.S. problems. I understand their concern that we are involved one way or another. I'm with you, but going beyond and trying to look at the details, for me, it seems like it. And if you guys notice, most of you guys are gonna notice in my Twitter feed, I almost never post anything that has to do with Palestine and Israel. It's not gonna get solved by libertarians. I promise you this. If someone's gonna solve it, it's not gonna be a libertarian. That's it. It's just, we're not gonna do it. It's not our business.
Maybe these so-called libertarians that you're discussing won't be able to do it, but libertarians with a B will definitely be able to pull it off. I don't know, libertarians, what are they?
Yeah. The point is, we shouldn't get involved and be concerned about that. Maybe Milei does it. He's in favor of Israel, and these are totally guesses. I'm not sure why he does it. Is because he has a personal closeness with Jewish people, because he has had some type of religious awakening as of lately, the last couple of years. He has said that in the future, when he retires, he wants to study the Torah in extreme detail. Maybe it's because it's convenient for him for his purposes in Argentina. Whatever the reason it is, I understand their concern. I just that we're not gonna fix it. And look at the problems they're creating. The Democrats are divided right now, and more than likely, if you ask me, I'm not an expert on that one, but they're gonna lose because they're so divided. So they're gonna lose the election. We libertarians are supposed to divide over this? Like, that
Yes,
it has a
we
limit. We
are
have to choose
because of the babies. The babies. Everybody loves to stand on the corpses of babies to try and get their point across, whether it's gun control or whether it's Middle East policy. Dead babies get score you a lot of points. Aaron Sepulveda,
even
go
if
ahead.
they're right, we can't fix it. Libertarians cannot fix the problem.
Good to know. That's a very pragmatic view, Aaron. We can discuss perhaps the. I'll be able to juice you up enough to get you to talk about the moral questions on that perhaps later. But yes, very pragmatic answer. The audience seems to like it. People are asking for his Twitter handle. I just dropped it in the Rumble chat for you. Blue Trike says he's very pragmatic. Look at Liz says he is my new favorite person. Sound economic mind. Steffi says Aaron is a nice guy. Very pragmatic, people say, and we're glad to have that. I just dropped his Twitter handle over there in the chat so you can follow Aaron over at x.com. Aaron, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
Okay, another thing that I was about Milei's speech, something that you guys probably appreciate a lot. One of the rules that he's trying to pass through, either in the May Pact, that's how he calls it, or through legislation, is to lower the amount of bureaucrats that work for Congress people. Because it's not strange, and this is not an exaggeration, it's not strange the amount of bureaucracy that they hire for their own purposes. It's around 100 people or more for each one of the Congress people. Each one. Just imagine how many people are going to be working for Congress alone, living off of taxpayers' money. That is going to change everything, because usually and this happens, for example, I learned this one also when I was studying international relationships, is one of the ways that you get a bunch of activists to vote for you and promote you, so that people go and vote for you. You offer them a job in your when you become a congressperson. Yeah, but usually they do one or two. We can go through it. 100, sometimes 200 of those, they end up getting a job for one congressperson. Just imagine multiply by 300 or so that they are in total. This one is one of the huge ones, because one of the things. Oh, and libertarians should value this a lot. What, independent of its international politics, Javier Milei, although it's not noticeable because people are fighting back, the Kirchneristas, the anti-libertarians, hate the fact that right now Milei is depoliticizing the Argentine society. No one else has done that before.
Somebody mentioned this in the chat, that he actually shut down the state-run media organization. As of this morning, the website is no longer up. This massive media institution of Argentina, afuera, just afuera.
Afuera. Like, think about it. Think about it. Every other concern, whatever concerns our U.S. libertarians have, they're not the priority of not even one person in Argentina. Every single human being in Argentina cannot have the priorities that U.S. libertarians have. And so we have to look at it from that perspective. If we cannot look at it from that perspective, then we're not understanding politics, and we're not understanding reality. We're not understanding trade-offs, which is embarrassing.
Yes,
that
true.
Their libertarians cannot understand trade-offs.
Yoas Trump 1203 says, who started this war knowing the consequences? He says, and he has a quote from the Bible: I will bless those who bless Israel. I will curse those who curse Israel. And we bless those who bless free markets. Aaron Sepulveda, an economist from Texas, talking to us about Javier Milei. Aaron, anything else you want to share before we let you go?
Not that I can think of, but thank you for inviting me. Great to be back. Thanks for following me on Twitter. For any of you guys, whatever questions you have, I'm happy to answer. And I love to talk about these topics because it has everything I like about life. Sports, because Argentinians love sports, monetary policy, and freedom. So this is amazing.
Sure, we love freedom too. Aaron, you're winning over all the crowds. They love you here. We're definitely going to have you back again soon. And I look forward to meeting you in person, I'm guessing, in Argentina this year for your Bitcoin conference. Look forward to hearing more details about that.
You guys are welcome to come on December 24th. La Bitcoin, I'm part of the staff. I'm a speaker. If you guys want to go, you guys are welcome. It's probably the greatest Bitcoin conference for sure of Spanish speaking. They do use a lot of English, so I usually take scholars from the United States to Argentina. It has worked great. They're very welcoming. You guys are going to enjoy everything that there is to enjoy in Buenos Aires. So you guys are welcome to come in December. Austin Petersen is it's invited to be a speaker. By the summer, we should actually make it official. But we do want you guys there because you guys, through Javier Milei, you guys have done an amazing step on promoting regular Argentine people, and that has no price. We cannot thank you enough, because regular people in Argentina, independent of ideology, they need a better life and they do deserve it. And right now, Milei is trying to do that.
Absolutely. We'll be
And you
following
guys are
it very
helping.
closely. Well, he's definitely going to have it, especially from me, as you know, #1 fan here in the USA. Maybe #2, Aaron. I don't want to take that from you because I know that you're a huge fan. Thank you, Aaron. Have a wonderful day.
Blessings.
There we go.